As a Georgia fan, and this was coming up a lot on Twitter as the Ohio State Clemson game was going on, and a lot of people were wondering, how did Justin Fields not start at Georgia?
Because Kirby is the most I love Kirby, don't get me wrong, but he's conservative. He already had. If Jake Fromm and Justin Fields are the same age, you probably wouldn't be watching Ohio State play tomorrow. I'm not necessarily saying Georgia would be playing tomorrow, but there's a good chance. But because Georgia's already pretty good, and if you throw them Justin Fields, they're probably a lot better. But I think the reason is Jake Fromm just has to be a year older, and then Justin Fields comes in the next year. And then it's not necessarily that Kirby didn't think Justin was better than Jake. I think, because I do have 2 or 3 friends that actually work for Kirby on his staff. I haven't talked to him in a while about this subject, but it's just, how do you sit a quarterback who his freshman year led you to an SEC East championship, an SEC championship, and a playoff, a Rose Bowl victory against the Heisman Trophy winner, and played in a national championship, and didn't play bad. He didn't lose you the game. He played pretty decent. And I know this was before Justin. This was after Justin got there, but he honestly played better his second time against Alabama than he did the first time. But it's kind of, I don't think it was necessarily, hey, we think Jake is better than Justin. I think it's just like, as a coach, all that Jake's done for you, and he was already been there. I think it's just really hard to sit it, because I feel like if that's a situation, you're going to get criticized no matter what you sit. If Justin messes up at all, why the hell did we not leave the quarterback that got us to a national championship in there? And then if Jake messes up at all, we got twice the damn quarterback sitting right behind him, not even using it. So, Kirby was definitely in a situation where he was screwed no matter what decision he made. I think nobody disagrees Justin Fields is going to be. He was a Heisman finalist last year. He's definitely going to be a way higher draft pick than Jake Fromm was. But it's not that. But Jake Fromm also wasn't horrendous. It's not like he was one of the quarterbacks Georgia started out with this year they really didn't have one. They had a former walk-on playing. So, but I think he was just in a hard situation where he was screwed no matter what decision he made.
Well, I do have that too. So, for Kirby, when you're recruiting all these kids, don't you have to think about this? Like, he has Jake Fromm, and he's recruiting Justin Fields, who's a highly touted quarterback. Like, what did Kirby think was going to happen?
Well, that year, actually, that Georgia went to the national championship with Jake Fromm as quarterback, I don't know if Kirby ever thought Jake would start at Georgia when he recruited him. I think a lot of it had to do with he wanted to get him away from Saban because he was committed to Alabama at one time. And he was a damn good quarterback who may or may not play at Georgia. Because you got to remember, a lot of people forget about this, Jacob Eason was the starter that year. And he showed a lot of promise. Kirby's first year when he got the starting job late in the season, he showed a lot of arm talent at least. So he was the guy. He started the first game of the season and then he got hurt. And then Georgia put in Jake Fromm to substitute for him. And then Georgia just kept winning. They turned around and beat Notre Dame. And Notre Dame only lost 1 or 2 games that year. But I'm not saying, we already talked about Notre Dame, how that can be. But either way, I don't know if he ever even planned on that, because I think he planned on Jacob Eason to be the starter, and then Justin to come in the next year, probably redshirted, and then that would be Eason's junior year, and then Eason probably go to the draft, and then the next year you'd have Justin Fields as a redshirt freshman as your starting quarterback with Jake Fromm as the backup. I really don't know this for a fact, but I don't think he ever intended for Jake Fromm to be the starter, and Eason's injury may have been the reason that they both left. Jacob ended up going to Washington because, Jake did well, and then Justin comes in the next year because I did see an interview where they said Justin was told that the best player will play. So that's one reason he went to Georgia. So he felt he was better than Fromm, and a lot of people do. And I don't necessarily disagree, but I guess Kirby just felt like, how can I pull this kid? And if I pull him, like I said, you're screwed either way. What decision you make if one of them messed up at all?
Well, because let's remember too, let's parallel this to Clemson, right? They have Kelly Bryant that year, they didn't necessarily do what Georgia did, but I believe Clemson, that was the 2017 year. So Alabama, that was the year that Alabama lost to Auburn. So Clemson that year was the number 1 seed with Kelly Bryant as their starter. Kelly Bryant's coming back. They have Trevor Lawrence. They're at this time they're kind of doing the same thing that Georgia's doing with both Fields and Fromm. That's what Clemson's doing with Lawrence and Kelly. And Dabo ends up being, and even there was a point where Trevor got rattled. They played Clemson. They played Texas A&M. Trevor wasn't great. They brought in Kelly Bryant to take him home, and that helped save their season. And this was a guy that did a lot for the program. And then Dabo was just like, I have to. He's better.
Right. I also think that one difference is, though, is Kelly was already a junior when Trevor got there. When Fields came to Georgia, Jake was just coming off his freshman year. So, but like I said, I think that comes down to Kirby being conservative. I think he's like, man, because I see it a lot with his coaching as well. If he's getting up big on a team, he'll just try to run the ball every play, and then the next thing you know, the game's a little bit closer than it should be. And I just think he just sat there and thought, he got us there. He's seen it all. Gives me a reason why I can fit it. I personally think Jake Fromm's better than Kelly Bryant, personally.
Oh, I agree. He is better.
So I think it's a little bit different because Kelly was an upperclassman and Jake and Justin were both underclassmen. They were just a grade apart instead of like 2 or 3 grades apart, like Trevor and Kelly.
But I'm saying you could have made the argument that Kelly Bryant had earned the right, the same way Jake Fromm did.
But you can also say that that Georgia versus Alabama national championship game was a lot closer than that Clemson-Alabama semi game because Alabama walked through Clemson that year and the same year.
Yes, they did.
And Georgia was right there and should have won it really in overtime. And they had them second 26 and gave up a fade route. So, but Devontae Smith, of course, maybe he'll win the Heisman tonight, possibly. But the point is, I think Jake definitely was better than Kelly. I do think Kirby definitely should have been keeping. I think he should have got Fields on the field, if that makes sense. Like he may not, he didn't have to start. Kind of like Trevor. Trevor didn't start for about 4 or 5 weeks, And then now I don't know if he would have started after 4 or 5 weeks because, like I said, I think Jake is better than Kelly. But we could have seen what happened. But even people like me who like Kirby Smart as a Georgia fan, it's really hard. You got to keep somebody at your. If you get somebody like Justin Fields on campus, you have to keep them there. I don't care what you have to do. Honestly, unless they're a cancer to the team, But if they're a good kid, a great player like Justin Fields, you can't afford to let him go like they did.
And you just when you see what he's doing, can Kirby not like for example, how much does college football history change if let's say Jake Fromm's the one that goes to Ohio State and Justin Fields is in Georgia?
Exactly. And you can even go further back and say, what if Jacob Eason never gets hurt? Fromm may have never even took a snap at Georgia because if you have Fromm and Fields as both backups, neither one of them to ever see the field, I think you're definitely going to pick Fields. So then Jacob Eason leads to the draft, and then the next thing you know, Fields is your starter as a redshirt freshman at Georgia, and then this would probably be his 3rd year. He'd probably be a redshirt junior, or he'd be a redshirt sophomore this year, going into his 2nd year starting in Georgia. So it's tough, man. It really is tough. There's so many ways you can look at how much does college football change if this one little thing happens? Because Jake Fromm may have never taken a snap for Georgia if that happened. And like you said, he may have been the one to transfer to Ohio State or something. And like I said, man, you can't let a guy like that off your campus. I never, even though Jake started that whole year, I really didn't think that Fields was going to leave. I did not, at least not that soon. But I was wrong. And now look what he's doing. And I think Kirby knew he was going to do that too. But I think Kirby knew how good he was. There's a reason he tried so hard to commit it or get him to commit to Georgia and flip him for Penn State. So I think he knew he was going to do that. But it's just hard to watch as a Georgia fan, man.
So do you think, really quickly, how much? Because at this point, players can get better, and maybe he wouldn't have been this good if he was at Georgia. Maybe it was that the program that Ohio State was running, Ryan Day and them, and it was just the best to get the maximum ability out of Justin Fields. Do you think
Right.
How much better do you think Justin Fields was at Jake Fromm at this time? Because I think now we can look back and say, yes, Justin Fields right now is better at football than Jake Fromm. But was it like that in Georgia? Because you can always get better. Because people can always get better.
Right. So pretty much, how do I think Justin was better than Jake while he was at Georgia?
Yes.
I'd have to say, yeah. I think even Georgia fans knew that. But like I said, and we understood why Kirby. It's not like Jake Fromm came off a 7-3 or 7-4 season or a 8-2. Well, I mean, the dude played for a national championship and was, a busted coverage away from winning the thing as a freshman. So I mean, I think it's definitely a harder decision. Back to the Kelly Bryant thing. It's not like Kelly Bryant was, a busted coverage away from winning a national championship for Clemson.
No.
I mean.
Well, Nick did the same thing to Jalen.
Exactly. Hey, but Jalen came back next year in the SEC championship and showed that he was still just as good.
No, and he might be better. Who knows? That's yet to be seen.
I mean, right now, I know Jalen and Tua are rotating. I know they're on different teams, but they're in and out at the quarterback spot. But I mean, right now, there's really no. At the time in Alabama, everybody was like, Tua is better than Jalen. It's not close. And then now we're sitting here and watching them both play for the Eagles and the Dolphins, and we're like, I don't know, it's pretty close.
Yeah.
But, I think Fields was definitely better. I think he's always been better than Jake.